What's poppin', everyone? VenomousStare back with exciting StarCraft 2 action. We have something a little bit unique today, 2 versus 2 action. Double Protoss is going to be the choice of the blue team, the Out and Out clan. Elusive Smoke up here in the top right, known for his cannon rushes and aggressive play. And here we have me, Savagewood. Facing off against the Out and Out clan is Joe, the red Zerg, and Fat Boy, the red Terran. So if you're familiar with the 2v2 meta, you'll know that Terran and Zerg is the most popular team combo. Hellions and Zerglings work very well together to control the early game, and with both mech and bio being a choice for Terran, it really helps get Zerg where they want to be, whether it be late tech or some sort of mid-game play. Very often what you'll see is the Zerg will be aggressive with Lings and limit the bases of the opposition, as Elusive Smoke is doing a bit of early aggression here, as he has opted to go Forge first, so this is indicative of a cannon rush. And for Joe, it just looks like, okay, this guy's being kind of annoying, I'm going to kind of watch this pylon on my ramp. And for his buddy, Fat Boy, he's pulling SCVs. He has 4 pulled, which is a solid number. This is going to DPS this down. This is going to DPS this down reasonably quickly. There it goes. Now he's double gassed, and you look, he's very mineral starved after he had to do that. You always want to use shift to queue up commands. For instance, after he right-clicked that pylon, he should have held shift and right-clicked the mineral patch. So after they got done killing the pylon, they would have gone back to mining immediately. And I am recovering from an upper respiratory ailment. I hesitate to call it a flu or a cold, but I've been a little sick, so I haven't been able to project my voice. And speaking of projecting, our Terran Zerg combo probably just projected some profanity out of their mouth because Elusive Smoke has cannon rushed here. He's proxied 2 gateways as well. Elusive Smoke has not taken gas at home. His Protoss buddy Savagewood has tech to Cyber Core. He's started to get that incredibly important Work Gate research. Roaches are going to be the choice here for Joe. He's taken a second gas. Now this map, Flooded City, is peculiar because if you see here, there are rocks, and these rocks are very detrimental to the early expanding player. Fat Boy did have 2 depots at the top of his ramp, and he went Reaper, but suddenly he was in this position where, okay, my Reaper is going to have to stay at home because it has to defend against Zealot pressure, and I can't really finish my wall because I'm worried about being pressured with cannons. Now Fat Boy's trying to rush out a tank here as Elusive Smoke wants to run up, see what he can find up on the high ground, but with this Reaper being a ranged unit, it's difficult. Here's Savagewood, and I'm actually going to change the colors here. It's uncommon to have 2 of the same races on the same team. Of course, in StarCraft, many times you see players wanting to exploit the strong points of 2 different races. And Elusive Smoke trying to venture up north to get vision on top of this high ground, and range units, of course, are going to be here. Elusive Smoke is making 2 shield batteries, and these units of these structures heal the shields, and they just came out basically. So it will be interesting to see how they are implemented in a rush. As a Zealot gets healed up there, a tank is out, and very frequently you see this is what counters a cannon rush. Savagewood running up here with 3 Stalkers. Stalkers after this most recent patch aren't as strong as they used to be, but they are still significantly stronger than they have been from Wings of Liberty all the way up until midway through Legacy. That means they pack a punch like Mike Tyson, and we see a shield battery actually helping out a cannon here, and Corrosive Bio landing there on Savagewood's Stalker as he was warping in units there. But Savagewood runs back into Elusive Smoke shield battery. So yes, your friendly shield batteries do help you in Banelings. They are going to go off onto the 2 building shield batteries. So in a way that is kind of worth it, as those minerals were lost. Savagewood trying to do some hot pickup micro. And Elusive Smoke pressuring forward is another tank here for Fat Boy. As, screaming in here with the Stalker Bomb is Savagewood. He's going to drop all those Stalkers off close range like a shotgun. Omar the Terror coming in. The shotgun Stalker. Savagewood failing to pick that yellow one up, but he picks that one up, and he might gargle Corrosive Bile and he narrowly picks up 2. So he's trying to channel Puck here, the top tier North American Protoss, and he's not doing a horrible job. He's not losing his Prism, but he's not doing a great job. As you see, another tank out here for Fat Boy, as 2 factory tank is what you want to hold a cannon rush, but a shield battery rush, this is a little peculiar. As Savage was trying to run it on the back, he says, okay, I'm going to cross him over, go over to the east side, back into my shield battery. But wow, with a tank and Roach Ravager out, really tough for Savage Wood to get anything done with this Warp Prism. Tanks just do so much upfront damage to armored units, so that means that this harassment has been held off. 2 queens come up here for Joe to continue to hold the push. This pressures the Warp Prism off. Elusive Smoke starts to lose a lot of shield batteries at the top. Savage Wood still flying around with this Warp Prism. He can't really do anything with 2 tanks. He says, oh, okay, he actually loses a couple stalkers there. And it's not just 2 factories anymore, it's 3 factories. Fat Boy has a lot of production here, and he's basically just looking to churn out mass tank, which is very good against Stalker, and it's very good against Cannon Rush contains. Savage Wood wants to delay as much as possible. He wants to fly around with his Warp Prism and just be obnoxious. Now with 1 base Zerg, of course, the Zerg has been forced to just keep everything at the front and defend against the Warp Prism and the cannons. Now he has made a hatch up here at the southern expansion, but he hasn't killed the rocks. This is more of just a macro hatch for larva. This isn't really efficient to mine. A lot of times what you see is a player will make a hatch here for minerals, for macro, as a 1 stalker harassment is going to be fended off by some corrosive bile. As Elusive Smoke still struggling to get his economy rolling, just now getting this gold base popping, which this gold is pretty exposed. Here's the shield battery coming. Tanks are pummeling away at this forward expansion, as Savage Wood even had a gate up here as well. Savage Wood is electing to go for a Robo and a Robotics Bay, and he himself has expanded. Void Rays are going to be the choice here for Elusive Smoke. But like I was saying, when Zerg takes this expansion here, I want to say off kilter, but off center, it means that they really want to have to break down the rocks and then make a real hatchery where the rocks were. So what you see often is this turns into a real expansion that mines optimally, and then you have an extra hatch to inject into, and this is great. New players, if you're struggling with Zerg, I would say as a good rule of thumb, make an extra hatch for every 3 bases or every 2 bases, because if you find that you're having a lot of money float at the end, especially with link-based styles, that means you're not having enough larva, and even pro gamers who inject perfectly have to make macro hatches. So don't be afraid to make an extra hatch. As we see more harassment here, Savage Wood is being obnoxious with the Warp Prism. Now this is a 4 Stalker harass Warp Prism. This isn't anything crazy like Adept of Shade, as Fat Boy's Terran army is moving out to clean up the rest of the entrenchment. And his expansion is about finished, and Joe is finally cleaning up these rocks. Now Joe isn't brainless. Savage Wood's just constantly harassing, and we see, ooh, a little bit of Cyclone action as Fat Boy only has 1. Remember, went triple Tech Lab to pump mass tank, another product of that huge forward entrenchment we had at the base of the ramp. So the reason that this is delayed and the reason that Joe is only on 2 hatch is because of this consistent harass. The problem with the Warp Prism is if you lose it and it's full of units, you fall very far behind. This might seem obvious, but it's not as bad if you just lose an Oracle. Like if I open Oracle and make an Oracle, get a few workers, and then scout around a little and then lose the Oracle, okay, I move on to the next phase in the game. But if I lose this 4 Stalker Warp Prism, we look at home here, I'm still doing my best to create a decent army. You see about half of my army, Savage Wood's army, I just feel so weird referring to myself in the 3rd person, but it feels even worse to break the barrier as a caster, so I'm just going to call myself Savage Wood. Savage Wood, about half of his army, gateway-wise, is out here in this Warp Prism as it's harassing this natural. And it's not even so much the units money-wise, it's the ability to harass. As the Cyclones of Fat Boy are going to run up here and try to snipe the Warp Prism, and they don't. Savage Wood's going to try to focus onto the hatch of Joe, but Fat Boy Cyclones have an insane amount of DPS. So one of the things that you have to remember about a Warp Prism is A, they're incredibly good with speed. B, it's the threat of them that is almost as scary as the harassment itself. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in Protoss versus Zerg specifically, Zerg really has to worry if there's a Warp Prism, and we see Joe, because he's been harassed so severely, still has yet to make this. Of course, look at this, he's microing his Hydras. He wanted to save this base, he has part of his army over here. And suddenly Elusive Smoke is throwing his units into the mix. Spire on the way for Joe. He knows that there is a lot of airspace on Flooded City. That means this dead airspace that can be used to hide harassment units like the Void Ray and the Warp Prism. Think about a normal 1v1 map. If a Warp Prism gets caught between your main and your natural, you can pretty much have units here and here, and then there's dead space. But in this map, there's so much airspace, that means Mutas, Warp Prisms, Medivacs, Voids, they're all very strong, and Elusive Smoke starts to run away, and the Cyclones go off, woo, as they kick up the big gunfire there at the end, and pick off one Void. But it's well worth it for Elusive Smoke, as Joe is still on this weird economy. The Protoss players have started to mass expand. We see a nice little mix of barrier, cannon, and Elusive Smoke is sniping these super depots. These depots, 16 supply. They're incredibly valuable for the Terran. And they oftentimes are a product of a low econ or weird game, and sniping them off is a huge pain in the ass for Terran to deal with. And using that supply depot call down actually sometimes makes an abnormal weakness for Terran. As we see in this game, the team of Fat Boy and Joe have been harassed so severely that it is actually a threat. Fat Boy electing to make double turret, not just one turret, he's doing both. He has 4 in his natural as well. Joe has a Spore, and Joe's going 2 base. I guess it was attempted 3 base, but he's trying to go 2 base Spire. And I don't know if he's going to go Muta off of this, because with this map having a pretty short rush distance, as Savage would did a little Zealot harass here. Elusive Smoke doing more harassment in the meantime, as the Protoss players have just been consistently harassing. Elusive Smoke has gone into extra Stargate play, and push here. His Hydras ran up into the ramp. I'm actually going to rewind a little bit as I got distracted, I guess. There's a lot going on in 2v2. It's not a matter of just me being distracted, it's more of a matter of like, okay, there's actually 2 extra players than normal. And 2 of the players are harassing a lot. So on Flooded City, the map has a ton of airspace, and like I was said, that is incredibly good for harassment. And we can see that the Protoss players, despite the fact that they were playing greedy, have established some nice defense. Savage Wood is making a lot of Immortals. He's gone double Robo. He started his Forge upgrades. He has +1 Warp Prism speed and Ob speed. And if we look at the units here, it's pretty much just Voids from Elusive Smoke, double Robo Immortals from Savage Wood, the Roach Ravager mix we've seen early on, and Joe has said, okay, I'm being harassed very severely, I'm going to make Hydras, because with Zerg, in the early game, if you're being harassed and you just have Roaches, it's very tough. You know, you have Queens, but Queens suck off of Creep, and in 2v2, Creep can almost be a hindrance if it's in your opponent's main, because then they can't build. So Joe literally said, well, there's so much airspace in this map, as I'm showing you here, that means that I'm just going to go Spire, screw it. We see Savage Wood hasn't flown his Warp Prism into these Hydras, despite the fact that they have been parked defensively all game. And Savage Wood's going to park 2 Zealots into the mineral line of Joe. And at this point, the Protosses have annoyed the Terran Zerg so much, they're going to say screw it, and they're going to push. Savage Wood sees it with his Obs. Joe has 2 Overseers, and Joe's probably going to try to push into this base. And up into the ramp he goes, but lots of Immortals. The Voids fly out. Hydras do a lot of damage, so a couple Voids go down. But Immortals, of course, do an insane amount of front-loaded damage. It's almost like burst damage. Think Fizz in League of Legends, I would say, or the Brolympia in COD Black Ops. But the Protoss players might run up here, and with Hydras up here, a lot of the shields will be shut off, and wow, Savagewood running forward into a lot of Siege Tank Hydra, and then a plethora of Cyclones came forward, and Elusive Smoke might lose his Voids, but of course Cyclones have to use lock-on ability. If we go to upgrades here, Joe has gotten the super fast boom, boom, boom rocket upgrade, and that's what you call an upgrade when you've only seen someone get it in a game once. I don't actually know the proper name for it. I'm gonna have to cough here. I'm still recovering from a little upper respiratory thing that everyone's tired of hearing about. Elusive Smoke has the gold, love it. He also has this gold. This is incredibly good. Not to beat a dead horse, but whenever you go mass air, gas is the most important thing. Minerals are still very useful too. Cyclones are going to push out here. They just killed a huge Immortal army. Usually when you kill a big Immortal-based army, it means that you have a little bit of a window to attack, because Immortal-based armies, well, they take a long time to rebuild. You can't simply just warp them in. 2 more Robos are coming for Savagewood, so the double Protoss team is going to be making a very polarizing composition here of Robo-heavy and Stargate-heavy. Savagewood chronoing out Twilight upgrades, Elusive Smoke mercifully taking his gases, and notice that he's making a ton of cannons and shield batteries here. This map is a little bit bizarre, although it does have a lot of airspace and these 2 backrock gold bases. The expansions other than that sort of wheel out, I guess, counterclockwise. And then there's 2 plateau expansions, one right outside of your natural, and then another, so 2, not 1, lol. And then there is another similarly structured double expand. Now this means that if you go Lurkers or Zerg, you can park Lurkers up here and hold the expansions very well. But we see a push here with Corruptor Cyclone, and the Cyclones are going to shoot very quickly, but with the shield battery it's not going to matter, and the Terran Zerg team is forced to retreat as an OBS dies. So the shield battery, one of the main things it's good at is immediately nullifying damage right at the beginning and allowing you to run up with another army. This is especially true in 2v2 when it's not just another army, but another player's army. So what I was saying earlier about the expands is, oddly you have 2 gold-based rocked bases which are behind you within your main. It's very peculiar. Excuse me. I did move my mic away for that, for the record. I can't stress enough how weird that is, for it to be both gold in base and rocked. And then there are 2 entrances with high grounds, which is odd again. And then of course out here there are quite a few golds, 2 in the middle, and then 2 up here. The Corruptor army is thinking about pushing, but to finish my thought about the map, is it's very hard to finish thoughts in 2v2. As you see what you see now, when it goes to late game, the map sort of splits. Each player takes their plateau, and then their plateau's up here. Savage with Warp Prism doing a little bit of harass over there at the gold, and it's running away. Look at this. This is how good Warp Prism speed is. The Corruptors, even after the numerous Corruptor buffs, can't catch it. Love it. If you're Protoss, you have to just see that and grin. That's absolutely incredible. So the Warp Prism lives to fight another day, and Savagewood just shift-click some move commands. He didn't need to babysit it. So we can see the exact formula I was talking about expand-wise coming out, as players are wheeling out counterclockwise to take the bases, but Elusive Smoke has a shield battery cannon entrenchment at his chokes. Now this one in particular is strong because it protects both these bases, but this gold and the backdoor path to this middle gold, which of course still is mining gas, so it's valuable, and it sort of protects this base too, because of course that ramp is guarded. Cyclones are powerful, but oftentimes with mech you do see mech players transition into more Viking Thor-centric mixes, because the Cyclones, if once you get so many of them, it's sort of weird attacking with them, especially with 2v2. Caustic spittle coming down, and the plot thickens like pasta sauce in my mom's kitchen. A lot of immortals coming back to defend, that's not particularly useful, and Elusive Smoke runs all the corruptors off with this Void Rays, and the Cyclones come screaming in. It was the classic bait and switch, but Elusive can just recall here, as he left enough voids to chase him off, and the shield batteries become unpowered, but it doesn't really matter. A lot of Lings coming out, but Savagewood has Archons, and the Archons just rip through Lings. It's not even close. And the Cyclones come out, big double storms as Savagewood tech to size storm. The Corruptors are going to come out here, but the Cyclone player knows he can't fight into as many Immortals as he has Cyclones, so the Corruptors are incredibly bruised, as we see an insane 16 Immortals versus 15 Cyclones. Immortals, of course, bonus damage to light units, and they're +2. Fat Boy leaves. Joe's thinking about leaving, as even 2-2 Corruptors can't do anything against Storm, and it looks like Savagewood and Elusive Smoke are going to be victorious. As Joe had a plethora of Corruptors, far more Corruptors than Elusive Smoke had air, but once you get Size Storm, it doesn't matter how well upgraded the Corruptors are, they just get eviscerated. And earlier, we won't rewatch the whole thing, but earlier, if you recall, there was an attack that was a little bit ill-advised because there were siege tanks involved, and there were also Hydras involved, and a ton of Cyclones. It was right up here where I lost all of my Immortals, where Savagewood lost all of his Immortals. Let's just watch from Joe's perspective. Remember, right now, on the Protoss side of things, there are not a whole lot of units. See, Elusive Smoke doesn't really have anything but voids. But look at Joe. He can't move out on the map. He can't move out on the map. He's teching up to Spire because he can't control the dead space. So whenever I first started playing StarCraft and the new maps would come out, I always wondered which features are good for which races and what should I be looking for on maps. And in 2v2 it's even more convoluted. So I know one thing that I beat like a dead horse. I mean, I just talked about it over and over. It might have even annoyed some people, but it's just insanely important. I'm not just talking about it because I can't think of anything else to say. Is the airspace. It is the defining factor of this map, Flooded City, and it is the main feature that you have to focus on if you want to win. I want you to picture normal 1v1 map. I know I brought this up earlier, but like I said, it is the defining feature. So a normal 1v1 map doesn't, I'm just going to move the map around, and it has about this much dead space in the air a lot of the time. So this means that if your Void Rays fly here, let's just pause. Think of it like a chessboard, right? If the Voids fly here on a normal map, then they can only fly up to escape, right? Because this whole area over here is dead. It's just black. It's like off the edge. And then so is this. Everything south of where the screen box is, all this is dead too. So imagine that everything you see on the screen is it. Like this is the bottom right corner of the map. So all he has to do is park units up here and the voids are trapped. So picture it on a chessboard, like oh, all of these spaces are in jeopardy pretty much, like this row and this row. And then of course with turrets here you can't do anything. Well no. On Flooded City, the chessboard becomes massive. Becomes like that really corny Harry Potter scene from the first movie where Runil Waslib goes, and I'll be a knight. Like, you want to be a knight? Harass on this map. Look at all this space. You can hide prisms everywhere. You can see at one point this game, the Zerg who makes 25 Corruptor because he's so effing tired of being harassed, and the air has a little bit to do with it too, but he starts to hunt down a prism from like here, and he runs all the way out here, and he just has to say, screw it, I can't afford to run this thing down, because he can literally run around ad nauseum, play the Benny Hill, just play the Benny Hill music and run everywhere. So look at this. This is that little light 2 zealot harass I did. So think about how little cost this is. If we look at how much I'm mining, full saturation, full saturation, full saturation, need to transfer to gas. So that's a lot of money. That's good. 2 zealots is nothing. But for this guy who's been just getting slapped around all game, and you can see where's his army going. It's literally headed to move out and attack. What happens? Think about getting ready to leave your house, and as soon as you're ready to walk out the door, you remember you forgot your wallet, you forgot your keys, and then you have to go through the process of finding them. That's like defending harass. And playing on Flooded City is like getting dead drunk, hammered, absolutely slushed the night before, and you can't find anything. You can't find your wallet, you can't find your keys, you can't find the freaking warp prism. Where is it? Nobody knows. And it's over here. But it could be here, could be here, could be here, 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 could be everywhere. Even if you were to make Vikings, it would be hard to find. And then Void Ray Harass is going on at the same time at another spot. And anytime Elusive Smoke gets in trouble, he can recall. He doesn't need to bring his mothership core, because guess what? It doesn't exist. That's not a crutch that you have, where you have to have that goofy unit, which was like a god unit basically, just following you around the whole time. So this is the mistake. So first of all, it's disjointed, is why this looks so bad. Is if we back it up just a little, kills the base, looks back to macro. You have to shift a move there. Oh, see, and then pause. At this point, because there is so much splash with the 4 tanks and the insane amount of cyclones, and not to forget the hydras, which counter immortals, this fight has to go very quickly for the Protoss players. Like, everything has to die. So for it to be this disjointed, let's watch right there. The Voids don't get a shot off until everything is dead except for 2 immortals and a stalker. There were quite simply too many cyclones to fight into. With the unit composition that Protoss had here, after winning this fight here, they should have just harassed. Because on a normal map, your spots to harass are very limited. Maybe like the few bases. But even with 2 turrets, 3 turrets here, and 4 turrets here, a spore. I mean, look at this. Look how much space there is on this map to harass. There's no reason to attack like this. Anyway, make sure you subscribe if you liked it.